Florida, of course, is bracing for the worst, and it comes in many forms. Joining me now, Attorney General Pam Bondi. Thank you, Pam, so much for talking to us. Amongst the concerns, obviously, evacuation, surges, flooding, winds, and people's homes being destroyed, there's price gouging, unfortunately, during these national disasters. Tell me how your office has set up a gouging hotline. You've gotten hundreds of calls so far. What kind of Thousands of complaints so far. What kind of complaints are you receiving?
Well, Julie, so we set up our hotline. I can't do that until a state of emergency is declared. Right. Once I did, I have 50 full-time people and trained an additional 60 volunteers in my office, stepped up to the plate. I have 110 people working 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, trying to keep track of all the calls. 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. You cannot inflate prices during the time of a hurricane for essential commodities, food, water, fuel, etc. Ice, that's what we're seeing. Generators. What I've been seeing, a lot of water complaints. I think initially we had about 300 water complaints. So far, when we came in 8 o'clock this morning, we noticed we had about 45 complaints against Chevron gas station. So Chevron, if you're watching me right now, you need to call us and tell us why your prices are inflated in South Florida.
Wow.
Because in Tallahassee, they're not. In Tampa, they're not. In South Florida, they're high.
Okay.
And there's no excuse for that.
We need to just send a message, too, here. You know, if you violate the price gouging statute, you actually face $1,000 per violation and
yes,
up to a total of $25,000 for multiple violations committed in a single 24-hour period. So that adds up. I mean, what other civil penalties can these violators apply?
Well, that's it, but I will be saying your name all over national television and telling people not to go to your business ever again if you're stealing from Floridians and taking advantage of Floridians in a time of need. And you know, Julie, it's not just about the money. It's about commodities that are helping to keep people alive, keep their children safe. And, you know, we've heard there were issues with the airlines.
Yeah.
And I don't regulate the airlines.
No.
Of course, that's the FAA and DOT, Department of Transportation. And I've been on the phone with the White House. They've been involved. I said, let me talk to the airlines. American Airlines stepped up to the plate. $99 flights anywhere out of 5 South Florida cities, one way. They're waiving change fees and they're flying pets for free. I asked them to do that. Delta, $3.99. All the states waiving pet fees. United stepped up to the plate. JetBlue. The airlines are all coming together. That's what we need now, Julie. Home Depot called me, said, what do we need? I said, well, I know they ran out of plywood at one Home Depot. They're having trucks coming in, and the Governor Scott's helping with that, with bringing the trucks in, delivering Home Depot in one day. In Florida, 355,000 pieces of plywood were sold. So that shows Floridians are at least listening.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in the trucks, though, is tough because with all the traffic heading north, getting out of Florida, it's a nightmare. And you mentioned, you know, the airlines. Unlike price gouging at gas stations, airlines have a loophole. They've been overseen by the federal government. That's just how it works, not by individual states. But there have been, and you just talked about Americans stepping up to the plate. I'm glad to hear that.
Delta, JetBlue, and United.
There were reports of airlines such as Delta and of American, in fact, jacking up prices, making a one-way ticket in the thousands, up to $6,300. In fact, one of those tickets was being sold for. American replying, saying that it's not unusual for the last seats on a flight to cost more.
Right.
It just seems
and they're making that right.
It's unfortunate that it seems that you needed to actually speak before action was taken. It should just be understood that you don't inflate prices during the state of an emergency.
No, you don't, but I will commend them all because right now my immediate concern is to get people out of Florida. And, you know, we have so many students down at the University of Miami who are trying to get flights out that we've got to charge them reasonable costs. People aren't going to leave without their pets. So the airlines, for the most part, they have stepped up to the plate, and I want to commend them and thank them. Walmart reached out to me. Home Depot reached out to me. I talked to the EPA. Scott Pruitt runs the EPA because we can do a blended fuel in a time of crisis under the Clean Air Act. And so what we've done is he's extended that order a new 20 days after Harvey so we can help drive gas prices, fuel prices down.
Interesting.
To help bring more fuel to our state as well.
Oh, great.
So I'm blessed that I have a great relationship with the EPA, with the White House, with the federal government, and with all our businesses. But again, if you're a bad business, we are coming after you.
Yeah, we just heard you say Chevron. We got it. It's noted.
Thank you.
And for anyone else who's going to dare to do that, it's going to get out there. It's bad for business. But you talk about blended fuels. Maybe you can explain that to me. And then also, you know, the governor, Scott, had come on earlier. He held a news conference and then he spoke with Bill Hemmer about fuel. And that is a big problem. It's not just the gouging. It's the shortage of fuel. This hurricane is supposed to hit Florida sometime maybe Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
It's Thursday, and there are still a lot of people that are lined up on Route 1 heeding those mandatory evacuations out of the Keys. Will the fuel get there in time? The ports need to close at some point. Right now they're open, but once those ports are closed, the fuel is shut off, and you've got tens of thousands of people in the midst of an evacuation. I mean, how is Florida going to handle that?
That's right. Well, and that's what the governor was saying. He's escorting all the fuel trucks in. My part was I contacted the EPA to help drive the fuel prices down by doing a blended fuel, which you typically can't do, but it'll keep our prices low.
What is blended fuel?
It's a blended fuel is when you're mixing different types of fuel. It has an emissions effect, so you don't want to ever do it long term. But the Clean Air Act states clearly that in a state of emergency, the EPA can waive that and let the fuels be blended to drive the cost down. And so we had a 20-day exemption they got for Harvey, and now I've asked for one, and DEP has as well. I talked to the EPA. They're doing that for us, which is a huge, tremendous help for Florida to for the next 20 days after that to keep fuel prices down. So hopefully suppliers will be able to bring plenty of fuel into our state. Governor's been out there tirelessly working as well. Can't thank him enough. Can't thank the EOC for keeping us all posted. But people, you need to be safe. By the way, Carnival Cruise Lines, they reached out to me. They are flying. So we have people out at sea right now. They're doing everything they can to either get them to a safe port or they're paying to fly them home. People who are already here, they're working on getting them back home who are planning on getting on a cruise as well. So, you know, we're seeing businesses come together and help. But it's those bad ones that I'm going to go after with everything I've got. And if I'm wrong, if Chevron's not doing this, call me and tell me or fix it.
All right. I believe that they will believe you and take that threat seriously. Thank you very much, Pam Bondi. Always great to have you on.